Hello, we are going to continue our little talk about relationships, and we are still dealing with romantic relationships. So far, I did an introductory video just for fun, and then we looked at the karmic astrological views, how the feminine and masculine archetypes developed over the centuries. Actually, as I was trying to indicate, masculine development or evolution is perfectly normal, perfectly rational, and then at the same time, feminine evolution is broken. It starts already at the outset with a big schism or break, because the moon and Venus are mutually exclusive archetypes. Even if you do find you do find sometimes very harmonious women who can be perfect wives and at the same time perfect mothers. The wife archetype is different. As you saw, Juno is a different category, because Juno is really the first lady who is there for her husband, and her husband first and foremost. She might become a mother, but then she doesn't really take too much time or doesn't deal in such a deep way with her offspring than the true mother archetype. But anyhow, it's still a broken archetype, a broken set of roles, which we very often juggle with. And it's hard to cater for everyone's need. If you're trying to be a perfect wife, a perfect mother, a perfect lover, a perfect housewife, a perfect co-worker, it's almost impossible, really. Because, and this is the key, it's very hard to adjust to those different sides of the feminine, because it originally got broken. That's the key point. At least this is what I was trying to explain. And it's also quite revealing the fact that we have 7 visible planets, out of which only 2 are feminine. And even the transcendental planets were given masculine gods, masculine names. And at the same time, the feminine got further fragmented or got opened up, because actually you could also look at it from that point of view, that we were provided by a number of more roles or potential role models to copy and to act out. But they weren't planets. They were part of the asteroid belt. So they themselves represent broken archetypes, or further fragmentation. Now, I'm not going to talk about lesbian or gay relationships for 2 reasons. First of all, I don't know well this subculture, and I don't want to make assumptions which I don't know about. And also because I firmly believe that as much as I know about it, even in such relationships, there are polarities. There are roles that are more towards the feminine and roles that are more towards the masculine. Actually, gay people have 2 words for that, top and bottom, which already indicates some sort of hierarchy. And although this is a tricky subject, I'm not going to go into this. What I need to express, however, is the fact that there are 2 main roles in our society, in our nature, in life here on Earth. One is that it's hierarchical by structure, and the other one is that it is always polarized. And if you think about, even all you need to do is think about the Kabbalah, the tree of life. And we are coming down from the catheric level down to Malkut, which is the physical level. And I'm not going to talk about the stages, only just to pick out the fact that Kether wants to show itself. It knows that it exists. but it still has this need to manifest itself. It has this desire to get manifested, and for that, it needs to become two. It needs to become polarized. So anything and everything that materializes here on the earth plane, in the third dimension, is always polar by nature. If you have one thing, you have its opposite. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist. Think about it. I mean, light and dark, feminine, masculine, good and bad, moral and amoral, and so on. And the interesting thing about that is that if you take one thing out of the equation, it collapses. So we should be very, very careful to leave those structures alone. Otherwise, the whole thing will collapse. So even I believe that even in gay partnerships, you do have one that is stronger and plays out the masculine energies of the relationship, and the other one is more willing to receive, and that person plays out the feminine side of the relationship. And before we continue, because I do want to explain to you the hierarchical structures and how it affects relationships, I need to state that I'm only a realist, okay? So I'm not anti-feminine or not an anti-feminist. Actually, I used to be a very strong feminist when I was young, but it was a different feminism. And if I were young and if I had more of the fighter spirit, which I used to, but in this age, I no longer care. I'm when you actually turn to side C, side B and A are the two sides of the record, and then you have side C, which is the edge. When you pass your second Saturn return, all of a sudden you realize that it is really time which is running out. So you need to think twice about how you're going to manage your time here on Earth. What are you going to take into impact? So what is important and what is not is a very, very important, becomes an important question. And so I'm going to deal with only things that I consider relevant, and fighting is no longer on my list, despite my Aries South Node and Aries Mars, and Aries Black Moon Lilith for that matter. I have a Mars Black Moon Lilith conjunction, which made me a true feminist and a true fighter for feminine rights. And actually, to finish the sentence, if I were still a strong feminist or younger, I would definitely fight for female athletes, because what is happening now in the athletic world is ridiculous. Third grade or fifth grade male sportsmen say that they identify as women and then they can beat women out of their own game. That's ridiculous, okay? Because, and we needed to get to this point for you to understand hierarchy. So what I'm trying to say, because men became stronger over the courses of evolution after the Vela cataclysm. Before that, we had a very different physical body. I explained that to you already. Actually, it was more like a light body, because we didn't need to carry strong. We didn't need to be strong. We didn't need to carry big weights, and also because the weather was much milder. We didn't have any harsh conditions, and we didn't actually have to do strong or hard physical labor. After the cataclysm, all this changed, and actually the physical body developed into kind of more sustainable. And very interestingly, men became stronger, and their muscle power and endurance became stronger, but women became more sturdy. Why? Because we delivered children, and for that role we needed to live longer. We needed to be there for the offspring. Whereas the masculine, our masculine counterparts needed to carry big weights and fight with the I don't know, with the dragons and lions and whatever. And also they needed for us to produce the food that was necessary to survive, and shelter and everything else. So that is when mankind sharply took a different term, and instead of being the this very egalitarian, very benevolent, nice little race that had nothing really to do, just enjoy life and live for arts and sciences and knowledge, turned into this fight of, you know, survival of the fittest. And we women needed to acknowledge that, yes, men became stronger. We are no longer goddesses. They became gods. Okay, that is when masculine gods started to come into being. Because as I often say, there's one creator goddess, okay, because that is something that the ancients knew perfectly well, that to deliver a child, a new life, can only be done with through a feminine body. So the word was delivered by the creator goddess. But over the ages, you had certain ages, okay, which had either gods or goddesses as their era gods and goddesses, let's put it this way. And for instance, Yahweh is such a deity at the moment. This is what we have now. But if you look at you know, the other religions, those which became world religions, they all have masculine gods. So this is a masculine era. And as such, we need to acknowledge this. And all I do, as I said, I'm a realist, I acknowledge this. I acknowledge the power of the male, and I'm just begging you, as an old bag, please don't emasculate them. Okay, we need what you started to label as toxic masculinity. There's no such thing. Let's put it this way. There's no, okay. Try to look after your men, because we are going to do enormous harm to nature, because nature doesn't care for vacuums. The moment there's an emptiness, something will move in and occupy that emptiness almost immediately. That is actually what happened 12,000 years ago, when the whole system and the whole nature changed. So having said that, we come to the second role or second most important law of the third dimension, which is hierarchy, okay? Darwin kind of said this, you know, the survival of the fittest, which is not entirely true, but it's still, because what I would add, there's a survival of the fittest, the most ruthless and the strongest as well. And fitness doesn't actually carry ruthlessness. Maybe it does fitness, strength, maybe, I don't know, I'm not sure. But what is more valid is that simply whoever has the biggest strength and greatest knowledge and most awareness and the willingness to be at the top will be at the top. And if we needed men for our survival, of course we allowed him to be elevated to the top. And of course he accepted this role, and of course he usurped that role. That's always what's happening, okay? No matter what. I mean, look at religions, look at any form of rulership. That's always the case. No, there's no beneficial rulership. No, there's no beneficial system of power. Power is always ruthless, and it kind of corrupts. So And that is why everything is always moving. And that is why certain ideas come into life and try to survive. And then, those who were in a lesser privileged class all of a sudden come into power. And the key is always, the key is always whether or not you are able to provide for the for everyone else. That's everyone else affected by your power. That's all. That is really the true question of any power that wants to survive. Now we come back to relationships, and so what we need to understand is that it is never equal, never. It's either the wife or the husband, either the girlfriend or the boyfriend, who is going to be stronger, more able, has more resources, more power, more free time, more money, more ambition. It's always like this. There should be some kind of balance, but it's never there. And actually, what I noticed in long-term relationships was the fact that there may be certain portions or periods of time when one is stronger, and then 10, 15 years later, the other becomes stronger or more able. And the trick is to keep this in some sort of balance, nevertheless, and allow the weaker person to get nourished and to feel loved. And then the relationship can sustain if it's based on mutual love, mutual understanding, and also mutual honor. If you honor the other person. When I teach synastry, which I'm doing this year, we're going to start with the advanced group, and it's starting on in December. And whenever I'm teaching it, I always tell them, if you want a crash course in synastry, all you need to do is ask 2 questions. The first question sounds like, do you still love him or her? And the second question sounds like, do you still honor her or him? Because if the answer to the first is yes, but to the second, not really, then that's not love. There's something else. Compassion, maybe, something much shallower than love. If the answer to both questions is yes, then it's perfect, because then it means that you will be able to move together. You will be able to function as a couple. If the answer to both questions is no, I no longer love him or her, I no longer honor him or her, then no matter what sort of astrological input you have there, you're not going to survive it. And here comes the interesting thing. If the answer to the first question, do you love him or her, is no, but to the second is yes, then you can actually rekindle love between the two of you. Because actually honoring the other person is more important than this mad, idiotic love affair, because honor means that he or she is a true partner. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I wasn't too boring and long. We will continue, because I'm going to show you how we turn into old age relationships. They're quite interesting, because actually the rest of the periods depend on which archetype you are playing out, and whether those archetypes are actually reconcilable. Goodbye. Thank you for watching.